Did you know that this year alone, there will be 8 million people are going to go visit that painting of the Mona Lisa in the Louvre? Why? Why are all these people, millions of people, flocking to go look at that painting? Who's telling them to do that? Is the president telling them? Is the Pope telling them? Is a council telling them that that's a beautiful painting that you've got to go see? Well, obviously, no. We know that, of course not, right? Beethoven's Fur-Elise. Did you know that on Spotify alone, Ludwig van Beethoven will have this month, September of 2025, over 7.5 million monthly listeners this month. His music is old. His music isn't hip. His music isn't cool. But yet, for some reason, it was written hundreds of years ago, and people are still drawn and pulled to Beethoven. Why? Who's telling them to do that? Nobody's telling them to do that. Because there's something obvious about a work of art that we as human beings recognize that nobody has to tell us because it's self-evident. All right. Similarly, early Christians, they didn't sit around and choose this book or that book, which books to include in the Bible. Instead, they simply recognized when they got a letter and opened it up and read it, they recognized there's something special about this. This is not some 5th grade scratch that we put on a magnet on our refrigerator. This is, well, maybe not a 5th grader, maybe a 5-year-old. Well, hopefully by 5th grade you're doing a little better than that. But this is the Mona Lisa that we're reading here. It was not men who selected the scriptures, but they merely acknowledged the authority that the scriptures inherently had. Bruce Metzger has a quote here. It says that the canon is a list of authoritative books more than it is an authoritative list of books. So what does that mean? Well, essentially, what that means is that the church did not establish the Bible. Instead, the Bible establishes the church. Jesus, and I believe it's John chapter 17, he's praying for his disciples. He's praying for them and prays for those who would believe on him through the words of his disciples, through their words. Do you know what a Bible is? A Bible is us believing on Jesus through the words of the apostles, through the words of the disciples. What that means is the Bible grants authority to the church, but the church does not grant authority to the Bible. The church simply identified which books belonged in the Bible, and they used 3 criteria to do so. So here it is. Number 1, first criteria is, was it written by an apostle or prophet of God, or a close associate or direct eyewitness? For example, the Gospel of Mark. Mark was not an apostle that we can, as far as we know. He was not a prophet of God. But yet, scholars could say that we could just as easily call the Gospel of Mark the Gospel of Peter, because Mark was a close confidant on Peter, and we believe that a lot of what he wrote, he was getting from Peter. It's actually Peter's narrative that he's telling in that book. So even though Mark was not an apostle, he was a close associate of an apostle. Number 2, is it harmonious with doctrinal teachings of the Bible? And number 3, was it accepted by and regularly used by the people of God?